Autistic people of Reddit, what do you wish more people knew about autism? It is genetic, not vaccination-based. It's so disgusting for anti-vaxxers to act like autism is worse than dying by polio. Honestly? This has always bothered me. Like, you'd really rather have your kid contract some terrible ailment, and then wind up dying, than have an autistic kid. Really? How did you all find out you have autism? A lot of these random phobias and quirks being described here are things I experience, and I'm kind of a loner, but also can on the flip side be outgoing/talkative and funny when in certain scenarios when I'm with friends and comfortable, and I feel like I'm really good at reading people's emotions and minor indicators in conversations. But I also have generalized anxiety disorder, very minor OCD, and am introverted. I mean, I heard my mum talking about it when I was young, and she's a behavioral therapist and used to work in a special needs school. So, she knows about developmental disorders like autism, and then when I was about 14 I saw a little checklist online about symptoms, and I matched nearly all of them. The way you say you read people's emotions makes me inclined to err on the side of caution. From my experience, most autistic people have to actively learn how to read people, and even then it's like a tourist speaking broken English. We are as diverse as neurotypicals, but simply our thinking pattern is bit different. You don't recognize us on streets because autism doesn't affect our looks. You notice it once you start interacting with us. Just like you wouldn't recognize a left-handed person until they start writing or doing other activities with their hand. We have feelings, we have empathy. You don't look autistic is not a compliment. Telling us, everyone is a little autistic, doesn't help. Oh my God, thank you. I've been trying to express this and I didn't know how to put it into words. How did you all find out you have autism? As a kid, I had some symptoms. Concentration issues. Bad at interacting with other children, teachers almost wanted me to repeat the second year of kindergarten because of this. Lots of fears, loud sounds like balloons, fireworks, a stadium cheering at sport events, fear of insects, some animals, dogs specifically, unfamiliar areas, big events, crowded places, strangers. I learned to deal with most of these fears as I got older though. I had high grades. I had trouble understanding sarcasm. Elementary school teachers initially thought I had ADHD, but then my parents decided to get a real diagnose. I knew a guy who went to my college for a couple of years with Asperger's, who really liked rocks. He would occasionally approach me and start talking about them, and I'd listen sometimes when I didn't need to go somewhere, because I could see just how happy they made him. But I also witnessed many times where people were unnecessarily mean to him. There were some people that thought of him as a novelty and would feign friendship and feed him alcohol, just because they thought it was funny when he was drunk. Looking back, I wish I would have done more to help him out and stop them. I remember one day before he left I went to the gym for a run and all the treadmills were taken, so I went to the indoor track that was hardly used. About 10 minutes into my run, he comes in with his mom and goes into the middle of the track with her. He starts showing her these various sword fighting techniques that he had learned, because apparently he was really into that too. Then he notices me as I'm doing a lap and eagerly waves. I wave back and he motions me to come. So, I took out my earbuds and jogged over. He introduced me to his mom as his friend. I could tell it made her really happy that he had a friend, and he was really happy too. I had only briefly talked to him a few times, but I did my best to be as friendly as I could be. After a few minutes, I excused myself, saying that I had to get going, so I left. That was pretty much the last time I saw him, because he left school shortly after. He was a really nice guy that most people just misunderstood, and looking back I wish I had tried to get to know him better. Sorry for rambling, what you said just reminded me of him and his love of rocks. It's kind of hard depending where an autistic person is on the spectrum. So for example, if you encounter an autistic person that has problems with socializing, don't consider them as this antisocial person who wants to be left alone. Because they probably might want people to hang out with. They're just too shy when it comes to asking. Or at least, that's what happened to me. Same here. I feel like I'm being creepy when I talk to people. Even commenting this is very awkward for me to do. Autism Speaks are the Peter of autism. And they spread a lot of lies about autism because those lies create fear, and that fear earns them money. I wish more people understood how terrified I, and possibly others, are that it will bar us from jobs, opportunities and relationships, a normal life, because other people see us as lesser, as difficult/not worth managing, or as broken. I feel like things are often harder just because people view me that way. It perpetuates itself. I worry when I tell people I'm autistic on a date, that they're gonna bounce because they then think they're doing the equivalent to dating a toddler. My boyfriend and I are both a little on the spectrum, and lately I've been thinking about how unwilling I'd be to date anyone who wasn't at least a little on the spectrum. It's hard to trust that they'd actually see us as equals. My man and I both have little quirks, habits and hang-ups, and we don't have the same ones, but we understand each other's, and it helps. The good news is there's hella of us out there, and hella more who are autistic, but don't know. Autistic kids grow into autistic adults. Just because we get better at not showing out autism, doesn't mean we've grown out of it, as many people think. It just means, we've been forced to hide part of ourselves to fit in, and oftentimes it comes at the cost of being able to fulfill all of our needs, or hell, even just being ourselves. Of all the answers here, this one hits me the most. I know how to act normal for the most part, but I'm 100% aware it's just an act and often feels like being trapped inside someone else's body. It's really soul-crushing, honestly. Is there a place you can be yourself? The only time I feel normal is when I'm drunk or high. That's the only time I feel I can drop the facade. I hope you meet the right person soon. My wife completely accepts me for who I am, and I never need to pretend to be normal around her. Good luck, stranger friend. That most of us aren't the weirdos and incapacitated mumblers you usually think. And since it's a spectrum, I can only talk about myself since it's so different for every single other autist. In fact, I am really close to being considered normal. Medically called neurotypical, which will be further addressed as NTs, but I do falter in my social interaction skills. Your basic ability to get subtle hints for, okay, I'm going to leave the conversation, or, I really don't know what you're talking about nor do I care is my downfall. I really have to try hard to get these intricacies. It gets exhausting, and when I fail at it, I feel like crap. Oh yeah, also I feel emotions at 11 times the strength as NT people's. So I feel anxiety way harder than a NT, like I barely make the first move or approach someone because to me, I think I'd look super desperate and creepy. But there are plus sides. I do have a one-track mind for sure, so I can use that to cut the crap and get exactly what needs to be done finished. So then when I want to write music, I can just shoot music out my brain. I am learning drums, bass, and guitar, so I can write all of those. I just wish people knew/didn't think of autism as a disability. It's an effect sure, but not a disability completely. I try and change their perception by telling people I'm autistic, Asperger's syndrome, after a while in passing jokes. So they can see the funny in this effect. FFS my real name on PSN, is gran autismo sport. Anyways. Have a good one and no, it's not bad to act a little autismo every once and again lol.